Hello, you are most welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Real Impartation Moment on Tuesday Night Anatomy with Daniel Okwan. Today's section, I quickly run with you the facial nerve. And my friends, one important thing that we know about the facial nerve is that it is the seventh cranial nerve. And everyone knows that this facial nerve, yes, it gives motor supply to muscles of facial expression. But another aspect that you don't know, perhaps, is that there are other muscles which are not muscles of facial expression, which are supplied by the same facial nerve. And not only that, because this nerve is a mixed nerve, yes, it also gives some sensory supply. We see that it also gives what we call secretomotor fibers, okay, to some glands we have in the head region. Yes, talk about by way of lacrimal gland, talking about submandibular, sublingual glands. We will see all these ones. And so at the end of this section, we should be able to tell a whole story behind the cause and the structures that this nerve will supply. And so, without much ado, let's set the ball rolling. So there we are. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that this is one of the nerves that emerges from what we call the pontomedullary junction. And so you can see that we have what we call the motor nucleus of the facial nerve. Yes, I'll come to all these things. But one thing that I want you to know is that there's one nucleus, okay? There's one nucleus which this nerve makes a bend, okay? So you can see this bend which is made over here. The name of this bend is known as internal genu of the facial nerve. The internal genu of the facial nerve. And internal genu of the facial nerve alongside what you call the abducens nucleus produces an elevation over there which we call it the facial colliculus. And my friends, one important thing is that if this facial colliculus you get injured, then what will happen is that yes, the main nerve which will be affected will be of course the facial nerve. So that's what I want you to know before yes it affects what we call the abducens nucleus. So he's saying that this facial nerve yes makes a bend around what we call the abducens nucleus, and it gives what we call the facial colliculus. And that's the first bend that we have. Yes, it will also give another bend over here, and this bend we will call it what we call the external genu. After, of course, passing through what we call the internal or the meatus, alongside, of course, the 8th cranial nerve. Okay, so that is, what I want you to know. But for me to really explain, to give you the ideas behind all these things, I want to use the next slide to explain it to you. So there we are, as I said, the nerve which is emerging from the pontomedullary junction. Here's the 7th cranial nerve, that is what we call the facial nerve. Now, one thing I want you to know is that yes, we saw the motor nucleus of the facial nerve in the previous slide, and one thing is that there will be other fibers, okay, which we call it the nervus intermedius. Now, nervus intermedius represent what we call the sensory as well as the parasympathetic component of the facial nerve. So essentially, we talk about the nervus intermedius, we are still essentially talking about the facial nerve. But which portion is apart from what we call the motor, fibers of the facial nerve. So it includes the parasympathetic alongside the sensory component of the facial nerve. So one thing that we see is that, as you can see over here, you can see that we put some of the fibers in this arrow over here. So the fibers all the way coming over here, they represent what we call the nervus intermedius. Okay, so one thing that I want to show you over here is that now we see this. Okay, we said that we are going to be on an internal genu. We've said that one, yes, internal genu alongside what we call the abducens nucleus, producing that elevation known as the facial colliculus, which of course when it gets injured, yes, of course the main structure which will be affected will be facial nerve. Then of course the structure which are supplied by the facial nerve, yes, downstream will be affected. But one thing that we see is that yes, this nerve, okay, which we call it the facial nerve, will pass through what we call the internal auditory meatus. Now, one thing I want you to know is that once, yes, we know that not only facial nerve runs through the internal auditory meatus, we know that yes, the 8th cranial nerve, the vestibular cochlear nerve, will also run through it, alongside of course the labyrinthine artery. Yes, but I'm not interested in all those ones. I'm interested in the facial nerve only. So it will go through what we call this internal auditory meatus, and of course you know that this internal auditory meatus is found in what we call the petrous temporal bone. Yes, then once it comes out of the internal auditory meatus, it makes a bend. Okay, so one thing I want you to know is that it makes a bend over here, and the bend that is made over here is known as external okay, genu of the facial nerve. Yes, then whenever you hear the word genu, it has to do with the bend, so you're making that bend, okay, external genu of the facial nerve. And my friends, one important thing that I want you to know is that this external genu of the facial nerve is related to one ganglion which we call the geniculate ganglion. We will look at these ganglia later. The one ganglion which is related to this external genu of the facial nerve, yes, it could be a question that you can be asked, is related to the external genu of the facial nerve. That's the geniculate ganglion. Now, emerging from the external genu of the facial nerve, you can see some fibers, okay, coming actually from the nervus intermedius, okay. Now you can see these fibers, and these fibers, okay, coming from the external genu, yes, they are going all the way. Now you can see the name of this nerve which is emerging over there, we call it the greater petrosal nerve. Greater petrosal nerve. Now, my friends, facial nerve is actually one of the parasympathetic nerves, yes, alongside the third nerve, the ninth nerve, of course, the 10th nerve. So the facial nerve is one of the parasympathetic nerves. So it means that this greater petrosal nerve, yes, is one question that I've seen. Yes, we can ask you, is it sympathetic or is it parasympathetic? Because it's coming from what we call the facial nerve, the external genu of the facial nerve. It is a parasympathetic nerve. But my friends, this nerve has not relayed yet, and therefore it is what we call a preganglionic parasympathetic nerve. It is a preganglionic parasympathetic nerve. Because one thing that we know is that this facial nerve will come into what we call the pterygoid canal. Okay, it will come into the pterygoid canal, and then leaving the pterygoid canal, it will relay, okay, in a ganglion, okay, and that ganglion is called the pterygopalatine ganglion. And then from there, the postganglionic fibers, yes, will be carried to the lacrimal gland to supply it. Okay, so one thing I want you to know is that this greater petrosal nerve, it is although parasympathetic nerve, but it is a preganglionic. Yes, it is coming before this ganglion, which is the parasympathetic ganglion. It is not relaying in this geniculate ganglion. No, it's not relaying over here. So that is one thing I want you to know. But there's another bit of information that I can add to you. Now, one thing is that making plexus, okay, around what we call the internal carotid artery, because this one is related. Now, look at this one. This one is the ear, okay. Now, take it that this one is the ear. Therefore, it means that this one is in front of the ear. So this, artery over here, where is the internal carotid artery, okay, is in front of the ear, middle ear. And that is why the middle ear can also be called the carotid wall, okay. The middle ear wall can also be called the carotid wall. Okay, so that is what I want you to know. Sorry, the anterior wall of the middle ear can also be called the carotid wall. That's one important thing I want you to know, because this artery is over here, which is the internal carotid artery. And making plexus on this artery, okay, we have what we call the artery, which will be, making plexus over here, the nerve that will emerge, okay, which will also go through the same canal that the greater petrosal nerve entered, okay, will also be called, yes, it's called the deep petrosal nerve. So please get to know. The first one is greater petrosal nerve. It came from the external genu of the facial nerve, and therefore it is parasympathetic. It hasn't relayed yet, because eventually it will come and relay over here, and therefore it is preganglionic before the ganglion, where is the pterygopalatine ganglion. So preganglionic parasympathetic nerve. But the nerve which is formed after the plexus is made on the internal carotid, plexus, okay, coming from the T1, okay, nerve. Yes, essentially it is actually going to be a sympathetic nerve. But before the ganglion was formed, okay, so it means that this one is after the ganglion is formed. So we call it deep petrosal nerve. The nerve is called deep petrosal nerve, and therefore deep petrosal nerve is a postganglionic sympathetic nerve. Then it will run through this canal over here, which we call it pterygoid canal. And my friends, that is why this, greater petrosal nerve alongside the deep petrosal nerve in the pterygoid canal, we call the two nerves nerve to pterygoid canal. And my friends, this nerve to pterygoid canal also has an eponym known as Vidian's nerve, V-I-D-I-A-N apostrophe S, Vidian's nerve, okay. So someone's name, capital V for that matter. Okay, so that is what we find over here. Yes, the other pathway, secretory pathway to lacrimal gland, we will review that one later. I will look at that one with you. But apart from that, yes, after the external genu has given off the great, so what have we seen? We've seen one important branch coming from the external genu, that is the greater petrosal nerve. Okay, coming from the external genu of the facial nerve. Then this facial nerve, yes, gives, okay, continues, okay, through what we call the medial wall, yes, eventually going through the posterior wall of the middle ear. Okay, so that is what we see, going through the posterior wall of the middle ear. Now one thing I see is that in the posterior wall of the middle ear, yes, this is the ear. So in the middle ear, the posterior wall actually, yes, I have one nerve which comes out of it, and the name of that nerve, okay, is what we call nerve to stapedius. Now remember that, of course, the stapedius muscle, the smallest muscle that we have in the human body, the stapedius muscle, yes, its supply is coming from the posterior wall of the middle ear through what we call, after this external genu, yes, the facial nerve continuing over there, you're giving us that nerve to stapedius. Okay, so that is one thing that we have to know. Now, although it is not a muscle of facial expression, it is supplied by this facial nerve. That's what I want you to know. But apart from that, in the same posterior wall of the middle ear, the facial nerve running over there, it gives another branch. Okay, that branch is known as chorda tympani of the facial nerve. Chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve. So that's what we see. But my friends, the chorda tympani branch will run through what we call the infratemporal fossa, and it meets one nerve, which is actually a branch, the posterior branch of the posterior division of the mandibular nerve. Okay, that is the lingual nerve. So it joins the lingual nerve, okay, so that its fibers could be carried towards where the anterior two tiers of the tongue, except circumvallate papillae, giving that kind of, since carrying the taste, sensation from the anterior two tiers of the tongue. Okay, so that is, one important thing that I want you to know. But my friends, this chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve through the lingual nerve is not only giving, carrying taste sensation from the anterior two tiers of the tongue, except circumvallate papillae, but it is also giving secretomotor fibers, okay, to what you call the sublingual, as well as, of course, the submandibular, glands. Okay, so that is one thing too that you have to know. So another branch we is giving off in what we call the posterior wall of the middle ear is the chorda tympani branch of the facial nerve. Okay, so one thing that we've seen, yes, this also, yes, these are not muscles of facial expression, these sensory to anterior two tiers of the tongue, okay, special sensation by way of taste, and of course giving that kind of motor supply, okay, secretomotor pathway to these glands. So although they are not muscles of facial expression, they are still supplied by, of course, this facial nerve through what we call the chorda tympani branch, by doing so through the lingual nerve. Yes, then apart from that, one thing that we find is that this nerve will want to come out of what we call the, infratemporal fossa. Yes, so it is leaving through what we call the stylomastoid foramen. So coming out of the cranial cavity, so through what we call the stylomastoid foramen coming out, okay, I have this nerve where it's coming out. Now, once this nerve comes out, okay, it gives off some branches. Okay, one thing that we've seen is that in the substance of the parotid gland, there are 5 branches which will come out of it. Yes, you have the temporal branch, you have the zygomatic branch, you have the buccal branch, the marginal mandibular branch, and of course the cervical branch. Okay, they are all coming through what we call the substance of the mandibular nerve, the parotid gland. But before going to the substance of the mandibular gland, yes, they will give off some branches, okay, to supply some areas. Yes, one of them will be the branch to what we call, there will be a posterior auricular branch. Yes, my friends, that posterior auricular branch will supply, yes, the posterior auricular muscle, yes, of course, auricular muscles, those vestigial muscles over there, yes, they will be supplied by this posterior auricular branch, alongside, my friends, the occipitalis, component of the occipitofrontalis muscle. Okay, so that one too will be supplied over there. Okay, the occipitalis will be supplied by those posterior auricular, muscle, auricular nerve. Then, not only that, we said that the anterior belly of the digastric muscle alongside the mylohyoid muscle, yes, they had that blood supply, innervation from the posterior division of the mandibular nerve, okay, through the nerve to mylohyoid. But my friends, before this nerve, okay, this facial nerve, okay, will go into the substance of the parotid gland, okay, giving off those 5 branches, it will give that kind of branch to supply, this time around, the posterior belly, not the anterior belly, there's the posterior belly of the digastric muscle. But one thing that we know grossly is that the posterior belly of the digastric muscle, yes, runs alongside with another muscle which you call the stylohyoid muscle. And that is why the stylohyoid muscle will also be supplied by what you call this nerve to the posterior belly of the digastric muscle. So that's an important thing I want you to know. So what have we seen? The nerve is emerging from the pontomedullary junction. Okay, that is the nerve emerging from there. And then we said that, yes, it makes a bend. Yes, there will be an internal genu where of course we have the abducens nucleus over there, producing an elevation known as the facial colliculus. Okay, then I said that this nerve, yes, it comes out, okay, through what we call the through internal auditory meatus, okay, through the internal auditory meatus. Now, just after the internal auditory meatus, okay, it gives a bend, okay, that's the external genu of the facial nerve. And my friends, that external genu of the facial nerve gives a branch which you call the greater petrosal nerve, okay, going through the pterygoid canal. But it is not the only nerve that goes through the pterygoid canal. I told that there will be some kind of plexus on the internal carotid artery, okay, at the anterior wall of the middle ear, okay, and it joins with it, and therefore these two nerves together we call them nerve to pterygoid canal, giving an eponym known as Vidian's nerve, but giving that parasympathetic supply, okay, to the lacrimal gland, okay, through this pterygopalatine ganglion. Okay, we have this actually the greater petrosal nerve. The deep petrosal nerve is sympathetic. Okay, I told you that greater petrosal nerve is actually a preganglionic parasympathetic nerve. Parasympathetic innervation will ensure more secretion from the gland, okay, but the sympathetic will cause reduction in secretion. Okay, so enough of that. But one thing that we know is that leaving, okay, there, and then of course I told you that there will be one other ganglion which is related to the external genu, and that ganglion is what we call the geniculate ganglion. Okay, then I said that yes, there will also be that kind of branch in the middle ear, okay, that nerve, okay, which will supply, okay, the smallest muscle that we have in the human body, that's the stapedius muscle. So there will be a nerve to the stapedius. Okay, so in what we call the posterior wall of the middle ear, I said it runs through the middle wall, eventually coming to the posterior wall of the middle ear. But in this same posterior wall of the middle ear, there will be another branch, which is the chorda tympani nerve. And my friends, this chorda tympani nerve, yes, will join the lingual nerve so that it carries the taste sensation from the anterior two thirds of the tongue. Okay, except the sublingual papillae that comes from the sublingual papillae. Not only that, it also gives that kind of secretomotor fibers, okay, yes, eventually through the ganglionic, let's say the glandular branches coming from the lingual nerve, okay, to supply this what we call submandibular gland, as well as of course the sublingual gland. But my friends, we said that it's coming out of the cranial cavity through what we call the stylomastoid foramen. So there will be a foramen over there known as the stylomastoid foramen. And my friends, coming out of this stylomastoid foramen, we have the main trunk coming out. It's eventually going to divide into 4 branches in the substance of the parotid gland. What are these 4 branches? Temporal, zygomatic, buccal, marginal mandibular, and of course the cervical branch. But my friends, one important thing that I want you to know is that before going to the substance of the parotid gland, it gives off some branches. Yes, some of these branches is going to supply what we call the occipitalis component, okay, of what we call the occipitofrontalis muscle. Yes, that one is through the nerve which we call the posterior auricular nerve. Yes, not only that, even the posterior auricular muscle will gets that supply. Okay, then of course we said that there will be another nerve, okay, to the posterior belly of the digastric. But that nerve doesn't supply only posterior belly of digastric, it also supplies the stylohyoid muscle because it runs alongside with it. Okay, so this is what we call the complete pathway that I want you to know. Now, if I want to just do a small comparison, you see that this facial nerve, okay, we have this buccal branch. Now, we saw one buccal branch from the posterior division of what we call the mandibular nerve. We said that one was sensory. Okay, although it pierced the vaccinator muscle, it didn't supply because it's just carrying sensory fibers. But my friends, this guy over here, they are carrying motor fibers, so it will supply the vaccinator muscle. So all these guys over here, we are going to supply the muscles of facial expression. So it tells you that yes, as far as muscles of facial expression is concerned, looking at the pathway and the supply of the facial nerve is just a tip of the iceberg. All these are the important things that you have to know about the facial nerve. So my friends, I hope you find this meeting helpful. Have a good night, all of you, and may the good Lord richly bless you. Amen.